very seldom that mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate. I would say a haunted house and reach the height of romantic felicity, but that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about the place. Else why should it be let so cheaply, and why have stood so long untenanted? John laughs at me, of course, but one is to expect that in marriage. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience for faith, an intense horror of superstition, and openly scoffs at any talk of things not to be seen or felt or put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps, I would not say this to a living soul, of course, but perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, John does not believe I'm sick, and what is one to do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and family that there's really nothing the matter with one but a temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what can one do? My brother is also a physician and also of high standing, and he says the same thing. So I take my phosphates. Phosphates? Whichever it is, and tonics, and journeys, and air, and exercise, and am absolutely forbidden to work until I'm well again. Well, personally, I disagree with their ideas. Personally, I believe that congenial work with excitement and change would do me good. But what is one to do? I did write for a while in spite of them, but it does exhaust me a good deal having to be so sly about it or else meet with heavy opposition. I sometimes think that in my condition, if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus, but John says the very worst thing I can do is think about my condition, and I confess it always makes me feel bad. So I'll let it alone and talk about the house. It is the most beautiful place. It is quite alone, standing well back from the road, quite 3 miles from the village. It makes me think of those English places that you read about, for it has hedges and walls and gates that lock, and lots of separate little houses for the gardeners and people. There is a delicious garden. I never saw such a garden. Large and shaded, full of box-bordered paths, and lined with long covered arbors. Oh, with seats under them, too. There were greenhouses once, but they're all broken now. There was some legal trouble, I believe, something to do with the heirs and co-heirs. Anyhow, the place has been empty for years. That spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid. But I don't care. There is something strange about the place. I can feel it. I even said so to John one moonlight evening. But what he said, I felt, was a draft, and shut the window. I get unreasonably angry with John sometimes. I'm sure I never used to be so sensitive. It must be due to this nervous condition. But John says if I feel that way, I should neglect proper self-control. So I try to control myself, before him at least. And that makes me very tired. I don't like our room a bit. I wanted one downstairs that opened on the piazza, had roses all over the windows, and such pretty old-fashioned chintz hangings. But John would not hear of it. He said that there was only one window, not room enough for one bed, and no near room for him if he decided to take another. Well, he is very careful and loving, and hardly lets me stir without special direction. I have a scheduled prescription for every hour in the day. He takes all care from me, and so I feel basically ungrateful not to value it more. He says we came here solely on my account, and that I was to have perfect rest and all the air I could get. It is a big and airy room, as anyone could wish, with windows that look all ways, and air and sunshine galore. It was a nursery at first, and then a playroom, and gymnasium, I should judge, for the windows are barred for small children, and there are rings and things on the walls. The paint and paper look as if a boys' school had used them. It is torn off the paper in great strips around the head of my bed, about as high as I can reach. I never saw a worse paper in my life. One of those sprawling, flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. It is dull enough to confuse the eye following, pronounced enough to constantly irritate and provoke study, and when you follow the lame, uncertain curves for a little distance, they suddenly commit suicide. The color is repellent, almost revolting, smoldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by the slow-turning sunlight. It is a dull yet lurid orange in some places, and a sickly sulfur tint in others. No wonder the children hated it. I should hate it myself if I had to live here long. There comes John, and I must put this away. He hates to have me write a word. We have been here 2 weeks now, and I haven't felt like writing before since that first day. I'm sitting up by the window now, up in this atrocious nursery, and there's nothing to hinder my writing as much as I please, save lack of strength. John is away all day now, and even some nights when his cases are serious. I'm glad my case isn't serious, but these nervous troubles are dreadfully depressing. John does not know how much I really suffer. He knows there's no reason to suffer, and that satisfies him. Of course, it is only nervousness. It does weigh on me so not to do my duty in any way. I meant to be such a help to John, such a real rest and comfort, and here I am, a comparative burden already. Nobody knows what an effort it is to do what little I'm able, to dress and entertain and order things. It is so good that Mary is so good with the baby. Such a dear baby. But I cannot be around it. It makes me so nervous. I'm sure John was never nervous in his life. He does tease me so about this wallpaper. At first he meant to repaper the room, but then he said I was letting it get the better of me, and that nothing was worse for a nervous patient than to give way to such fancies. He said that after the wallpaper was changed, it would then be the heavy bedstead, and then the barred windows, and that gate at the head of the stairs, and so on. The room is doing you good, he said, and really, my dear, I don't care to renovate the house just for a 3 months rental. Then let us go downstairs. There are such pretty rooms down there. And then he took me in his arms and called me a blessed little goose, and said he would go down to the cellar if I wished and have it whitewashed into the bargain. He was right about the beds and windows and things. It is as big an area room as anyone need wish, and of course I would not be so silly as to make him uncomfortable for a mere whim. I am getting quite fond of the big room. All but that horrid paper. There comes John's sister. Such a dear girl as she is, and very careful of me. I must not let her find me writing. She is a perfect and enthusiastic housekeeper, and hardly hopes for a better profession. I verily believe she thinks it is the writing that makes me sick. Yeah, but I can write when she's out, and see her a long way off from these windows. There is one that controls the road. A lovely, shaded, winding road, and one that just looks off over the countryside. A lovely countryside, too, full of great elms and velvet meadows. This wallpaper has a kind of sub-pattern in a different shade, a particularly irritating one, for you can only see it in certain lights and not clearly then. But in the places where it isn't faded and the sun is just so, I can see a strange, provoking, formless sort of figure. Seems to skulk about behind that silly, conspicuous front design. Oh, there's Sister on the stairs. Well, the 4th of July is over, and the people are gone, and I'm tired out. John thought it would do me good to see a little company. So we just had Mother and Nellie and the children down for a week. Of course I didn't do a thing. Jenny sees to everything now. But it tired me all the same. John says if I don't pick up faster, he will send me to Vera Mitchell in the fall. I don't want to go there at all. I had a friend who was in his hands once, and she said he is just like John and my brother, only more so. But besides, it is such an undertaking to go so far. I don't feel as if it was worthwhile to turn my hand over for anything. And I'm so dreadfully fretful and querulous. I cry at nothing. I cry most of the time. Not when John's around, of course, or anybody else, but when I'm alone. And I am a good deal alone just now. John is away all days with serious cases, and Jenny is good and lets me alone when I want her to. So I walk a little in the garden, or down that lovely lane, and sit up under the porch, under the roses, and lie down up here a good deal. I really am getting quite fond of the room, in spite of the wallpaper. Perhaps because of the wallpaper. It dwells in my mind so. I lie down up here on this great immovable bed. It is nailed down, I believe, and I follow that pointless pattern about by the hour. It is as good as gymnastics, I assure you. I start, we'll say, in the corner down there where it hasn't been touched, and I determine for the 1000th time to follow that pattern to some sort of a conclusion. I know a little on the principle of design, and I know this thing was not arranged by any laws of radiation, or alternation, or repetition, or symmetry, or anything else I ever heard of. It is repeated, of course, in breaths, but not otherwise. Looked at in one way, each breath stands alone. The bloated curves and flourishes, kind of debased Romanesque, with delirium tremens, go waddling up and down in isolated columns of fatuity. The whole thing connects diagonally, on the other hand, and The great sprawling outlines run off in great slanting waves of optic horror, like a lot of wallowing seaweed in full chase. The whole thing goes horizontally, too. At least it seems that way. And I exhaust myself in trying to distinguish the order of its going in that direction. They have used a horizontal breadth for a frieze, and that adds wonderfully to the confusion. There is one end of the room where it's almost intact, and there, where the crosslights fade, and the low sun shines directly upon it, I can almost fancy radiation after all. The interminable grotesque seem to form around a common center and rush off in headlong plunges of equal distraction. It tires me to follow it. I'll take a nap, I guess. Oh, dear John. He loves me very dearly and hates to have me sick. I tried having a real, earnest, reasonable talk with him the other day and try to tell him how I wish he would let me visit Cousin Henry and Julia. But he said I was not able to go, nor able to stand it once I got there. And I did not make out a very good case for myself, for I was crying before I had finished. It is getting to be such an effort for me to think straight. It is probably due to this nervous condition. And then John just gathered me up in his arms and brought me upstairs and laid me on the bed and sat next to me and read to me till it tired my head. He said I was his darling and his comfort and all that he had, and that I must take care of myself for his sake and keep well. He said that nobody else but me could help me out of it, and that I was to use my will and self-control and not let any silly fancies run away with me. There is one comfort. The baby's well and happy, and doesn't have to occupy this nursery with the horrid paper. If we hadn't used it, the blessed child would have. Oh, what a fortunate escape. Oh, I wouldn't have a child of mine, an impressionable little thing, live in such a room for worlds. You know, I never thought about it before, but it is lucky that John kept me here after all. I can stand it so much easier than a baby, you see. Of course I don't mention it to them anymore. I'm too wise, but I keep watching it all the same. There are things in this paper that nobody knows but me, or ever will. But behind that outside pattern, the dim shapes get clearer every day. It is always the same shape, only very numerous, and it is like a woman stooping down and creeping about behind that outside pattern. I don't like it a bit. I wonder. I begin to think. I wish John would keep me away from here. It is so hard to talk to him about my case, but because he's so wise, and because he loves me so. But I tried it one night. It was moonlight. The moon shines in all around just as the sun does. I hate to see it sometimes. It creeps so slowly and always comes in by one window or another. That faint figure behind seems to shake the pattern, just as if she wants to get out. What is it, little girl? Don't go walking about like that. You'll get cold. Really, my dear, you are getting better, whether you can see it or not. I'm a doctor, dear, and I know. You're gaining flesh and color. Your appetite is improved. Really, my dear, I'm feeling much easier about you. I don't weigh a bit more. Bless her little heart, she'll be as sick as she pleases. And you won't go away? Why, how can I, dear? It is only 3 weeks more. Really, dear, you are better. Oh, better in body, perhaps. My darling, said he, I beg of you, for your sake, for our child's sake, for my sake, that you never for one moment let that idea enter your mind. It is a false and foolish fancy. Can you not believe me as a physician when I tell you so? There is a lack of sequence in a pattern like this by daylight, and that is a constant irritant to a normal mind. The color is hideous enough, and unreliable enough, and infuriating enough. But the pattern is torturing. You think you've mastered it, but just when you get well underway in following, it turns a back somersault, and there you are. It slaps you in the face, and knocks you down, and tramples upon you. It is like a bad dream. The pattern is a florid arabesque, reminding one of a fungus. If you can imagine a toadstool in joints, an interminable string of toadstools budding and sprouting in endless convolutions, why, that's something like it. That is only sometimes. There is a marked peculiarity about this paper, and that is that it changes as the light changes. When the sun shoots in from the east window, I always watch for that one long, straight ray. It changes so quickly that I can't quite believe it. By moonlight, the moon shines in all night when there is a moon. I wouldn't believe it was the same paper. At night, in any kind of light, in twilight, candlelight, lamplight, worst of all by moonlight, it becomes bars. The pattern, I mean, and the woman behind it is as plain as can be. And in the daytime, she's subdued, quiet. I think it is the pattern that keeps her so still. It is so puzzling. It keeps me quiet by the hour. John is so pleased to see me improve. He laughed a little the other day and said I seemed to be flourishing in spite of my wallpaper. I turned it off with a laugh. I had no intention of telling him it was because of the wallpaper. He'd make fun of me. He might even want to take me away. Life is so much more exciting now than it used to be. You see, I have more to expect, to look forward to watch. I don't want to leave now until I found it out. I'm feeling ever so much better. I don't sleep much at night, for it's so interesting to watch developments, but I sleep a good deal in the daytime. In the daytime, it is tiresome and perplexing. There are always new shoots on the fungus and new shades of yellow everywhere. I cannot keep count of them, though I've tried conscientiously. It is the strangest yellow, that wallpaper. It makes me think of all the yellow things I ever saw. Well, not the beautiful ones like buttercups, but the bad, foul, old yellow things. There is something else about this paper. The smell. I noticed it the moment we came into the room, but with all the air and sun, it was not bad. And now it creeps through the house. I find it hovering in the dining room, skulking in the parlor, hiding in the hall, and lying in wait for me on the stairs. It gets into my hair. There's that smell. It is not bad at first, and very gentle, but quite the subtlest, most enduring odor I ever met. I wake up at night to find it hanging over me. It used to disturb me at first. I thought seriously of burning the house to reach the smell. But I'm used to it now. The only thing I can think it is like is the color of the paper. A yellow smell. There is a very funny mark on this wall low down near the mopboard. A streak that runs around the room and it goes behind every piece of furniture except the bed. A long, straight, even smooch that looks as if it had been rubbed over and over. I wonder how it was done, and who did it, and why. Round and round and round and round and round and round, it makes me dizzy. That outside pattern does move. And no wonder the woman behind shakes it. Sometimes I think there are a great many women behind, and sometimes only one. And she crawls so fast, and her crawling shakes the pattern all over. And in the very bright spots, she is still. And in the very shady spots, she just grabs a hold of the bars and shakes them hard. And she is all the time trying to climb through, but nobody could climb through that pattern. It strangles so. I think that's why it has so many heads. They climb through, and then the pattern strangles them off and turns them upside down and makes their eyes white. I think that woman gets out during the daytime. I've seen her. I can see her out of every one of my windows. It is the same woman, I know, for she's always creeping. And most women don't creep by daylight. I've seen her on that shaded road under the trees, just creeping along. And when a carriage comes by, she hides under the blackberry vines. I don't blame her a bit. It must be very humiliating to be caught creeping by daylight. I always lock the door when I creep by daylight. I can't creep at night, for I know John would suspect something at once. And John is so queer now that I don't want to irritate him. I often wonder if I can if I can see her out of all of my windows at once, but turn as fast as I can only see her out of one at a time. I have watched her afar off in the distant country, creeping as fast as a cloud shadow in a high wind. If only that top pattern could be gotten off from the under one. I mean to try it sometime, little by little. Jenny wanted to sleep with me, the sly thing. But I told her I should undoubtedly rest better for a night all alone. That was clever, for really I wasn't alone at all. As soon as it was night and that poor creature began to crawl around and shake the pattern, I got up and ran over to help her. She shook and I pulled, I shook and she pulled, and before long we peeled off yards of that paper, a strip about as high as my head and half around the room. Jenny looked at the wall in amazement. I told her merrily that I did it out of pure spite of the vicious thing. She laughed and said she wouldn't mind doing it herself. How she did betray herself that time? Nobody touches this paper but me. Not alive. But now she is gone, and the people are gone, and the things are gone, and all that's left is this great, heavy bedstead with a canvas mattress. I quite enjoy the room now it is bare again. How those children did tear about here. And this bedstead is fairly gnawed. But I must get to work. I've locked the door and thrown the key out into the front porch. I don't want anybody to come in until John comes. I want to astonish him. I've got a rope. If that woman does get out and tries to get away, I can tie her. But I forgot that I could not reach for without anything to stand on. This paper shrieks in derision. All of those strangled heads and bulbous eyes and waddling fungus growths. To jump out the window would be admirable exercise, but the windows bars are too strong even to try. Plus, I wouldn't do it. Of course not. I know very well that a step like that is improper and might be misconstrued. I don't like to look out of the windows even. There are so many of those creeping women, and they creep so fast. I wonder if they all came out of the paper as I did. But I am securely fastened by my well-hidden rope. You don't get me out in that road there. I suppose I'll have to go back behind the pattern when it comes night. It is so pleasant to be out in this great room and creep about as I please. I don't want to go outside. I won't. For outside, you have to creep on the ground, and everything is green instead of yellow. And here I can creep smoothly on the floor, and my shoulder just fits that long smooch around the wall. Why, there's John at the door. It's no use, young man. You cannot get in. How he does call and pound. Well, now he's crying for an axe. It'd be such a shame for him to break down such a beautiful door. John, dear, the key is down by the front steps under a plantain leaf. Open the door, my darling. I can't. The key is down by the front door under a plantain leaf. The key is down by the front door under a plantain leaf. And I say it again, several times, slowly and gently. The key is down by the front steps under a plantain leaf. I say it so often that he has to go and see. And then he gets it, of course, and then comes in and stops still by the door. What is the matter? He cried. For God's sake, what are you doing? I keep creeping, but I look at him over my shoulder. I got out at last, in spite of you and Jane, and I peeled off most of that paper, so you can't put me back. And now, why should that man have fainted? But he did, and right in my path by the wall. So that I have to creep over him